Hey there, Demwins media users. This is Matt Staub here. Hope you all had a great weekend. There were quite a few stories that broke the past few days, and a lot of them were on the immigration front, which is what I want to talk to you about today. It sort of all started on Friday and continued throughout the weekend, but started with Trump having this Office executive order ceremony on Friday where he announced the Trump Gold Card and Trump Platinum Card for immigration. Yes, you can take a second to roll your eyes. What they essentially are is the gold card is a $1 million donation that an individual makes in order to obtain permanent residency in the US. The Trump Platinum Card, on the other hand, is what I like to call the tax evasion flavor of this whole thing, which is basically people make a $5 million donation to the United States in order to get up to 270 days a year of being in the United States and basically being able to use that time to have tax-free non-US income as a result of their permanent residency in the United States. So there's also an employer angle to this as well, which is apparently there's a $2 million donation that employers can make in order to get a visa that they can transfer between employees. But at the end of the day, looking at these prices, it's pretty obvious to what this is to everybody. This is ultra wealthy people being able to buy a foothold and tax breaks in the United States. Howard Lutnick talked about sort of this program, but also derided the H-1B visa program that currently exists, that hundreds of thousands of foreign workers rely on, and this is what he had to say about that in the Oval Office ceremony.
In the world that was taking in the bottom quartile. So what we are doing now is we are going to stop doing that. We're going to only take extraordinary people at the very top. Instead of people trying to take the jobs from Americans, they're going to create businesses and create jobs for Americans. And this program will raise more than $100 billion for the Treasury of the United States of America.
Which we'll use for cutting taxes and paying down debt. We think it's going to be very successful.
Even though it's a short clip, there's a lot to talk about in this. First of all, this whole idea that people on H-1Bs are here to take other people's jobs. Let's backtrack this really quickly. Do you know how many very important American CEOs and entrepreneurs started out as H-1B visa holders? Elon Musk was an H-1B visa holder. Satya Nadella, the CEO of Microsoft, is an H-1B visa holder. Sundar Pichai, the CEO of Google, is an H-1B visa holder. These are not people who are coming to the United States and then running to go back to their home country. Some very major US CEOs and entrepreneurs were H-1B visa holders. Yet the administration is trying their best to gut this program and turn it into something that's basically a pay to play for their wealthy benefactors. It's been even at the end of that, video clip, you saw Trump say, well, this is going to be used, for tax cuts for people. Well, those tax cuts that he's talking about are to pay for the tax cuts in the big, beautiful bill that, went toward disproportionately the top 1% and the top 0.1% of the wealthiest Americans. So whatever money is raised through this program is not going to end up trickling down to the Americans that actually need it most. Lutnick had another kind of gem of a moment in this ceremony that I do want to point out. So let's roll that quickly and talk about it on the other side.
We need workers. We need great workers. And this pretty much ensures that that's what's going to happen. I think, Sean, do you agree with that?
Well, they're $100,000 per year. So the whole idea is no more will these big tech companies or other big companies train foreign workers. They have to pay the government $100,000, then they have to pay the employee. So it's just not economic. If you're going to train somebody, you're going to train one of the recent graduates from one of the great universities across our land, train Americans, stop bringing in people to take our jobs. That's the policy here, $100,000 a year for H-1B visas, and all of the big companies are on board. We've spoken to them about the gold card.
They love it. They love it. They really love it. They need it. Go ahead, Sean.
Mr. President.
And that part of the ceremony was what really kicked off a ton of chaos this weekend. So Lutnick, who said this multiple times in that clip, kept repeating that the H-1B visa, which right now costs a few $100s a year, per visa holder, that they were going to raise the cost to $100,000 per visa holder per year. That set off a domino effect of And what Lutnick said in this clip here is what really kicked off a ton of chaos this weekend. You heard him say in that clip that the H-1B visa fee, which currently sits at a few $100s per year per applicant or visa holder, was getting ratcheted up to $100,000 per year. You heard him say it. It was going to be a per year $100,000 fee. That kicked off this wave of panic for tech and business leaders who told any of their H-1B visa holders who might have been out of the country right now to rush back to the United States as quickly as possible in order to get back into the country before this deadline and this new policy went into effect. That led to people who were spending thousands of dollars in order to get flights as quickly as they possibly could to get back into the country. And, the tech and business leaders asked the White House for more clarity over the weekend, and they weren't getting it. And it was only after enough backlash and outreach from that community that the White House sort of backtracked a bit and said, oh, actually, this it's not an annual fee for the H-1B visa. It's just a $100,000 one-time fee, and it only applies to future H-1B visas. So they did backtrack a bit, but the damage was sort of done, and the signal was sent already, which is that, this administration just sort of announces policy on a whim. It's always light on details and doesn't have clarity, and it confuses people, and it confuses entire industries. It causes, chaos, and then they sort of just wait to see what the reaction is to adjust what the actual policy is. And the net effect of all of this is just a legal immigration system where it becomes harder to fill real jobs while, ultra wealthy and billionaire people sort of get this, buy a visa lane to make their lives so much easier. On a different front this weekend, you had ICE Director Tom Homan, who was invited on Bill Maher's show and was talking about, his view of crime and immigration. And he had this to say in a quick clip. Let's take a look.
Or their brother, okay, because they didn't pay the fees. What I'm saying is, that's what you have to show. There's consequences. Because if you send a message, there's no consequences, and you want to reward illegal behavior, that's not going to stop.
Right. And I get all that.
So there you have Tom Homan, the director of ICE, on a talk show on Friday night saying that, when it comes to immigration and illegal immigration, they can't reward illegal behavior or else it will continue. Well, it's pretty interesting that on Saturday, some reporting came out from MSNBC showing that Tom Homan was allegedly under investigation for accepting a $50,000 cash bribe last year in exchange for promising immigration contracts to people after he had gotten into the Trump administration. That DOJ investigation was happening last year and was only dropped once he became a part of the Trump administration, and Kash Patel said that, there wasn't enough evidence to show that any wrongdoing was done. Interesting. It just is a continued pattern of behavior in terms of the fact that the law seems to apply to people outside of Trump world, but when people in Trump world break the law, it doesn't always apply to them. Chris Murphy had a response to this when he was on the Sunday talk shows yesterday. Let's take a look at that.
Jail. See what happened to Tom Homan, his border czar, who literally accepted a bag of cash, $50,000, and the investigation was dropped once Donald Trump became president. So there are just two standards of justice now in this country. If you are a friend of the president, a loyalist of the president, you can get away with nearly anything, including beating the hell out of police officers. But if you are an opponent of the president, you may find yourself in jail. Again, that is Cuba. That's Iran. That's Russia. That is not the United States. And this just has to be a moment where leaders come together, whether you are a Republican or Democrat, and say enough is enough.
And Senator Murphy hit on something really important there, which is that this is not how the justice system is supposed to work in the United States. This is how the justice system works in countries that we view as authoritarian, where, the rules apply and the laws apply to, the vast majority of the population, but to a small group of very wealthy and powerful and connected people who are connected to the president, consequences and the laws don't seem to apply to them, which is what we're seeing here. Immigrants being labeled, by and large by so many people in this administration as criminals, while, administration officials are allowed to engage in what is basically mob-like behavior without any repercussions whatsoever. We'll keep covering this story for you as it develops over the week. It certainly will as we start to get some more clarity, hopefully from the administration on what this all really looks like. In the meantime, on Wednesday this week, on the topic of immigration, I will actually be talking to Congresswoman Hillary Skolton from Western Michigan, who is an immigration lawyer and a former DOJ attorney, about what smart immigration, but also compassionate immigration policy looks like. So looking forward to having that conversation with her. If you want to find that there on Wednesday, you can go to my Substack at buildingthebench.substack.com. If you liked this video, throw a like on it, subscribe to the Dem Wins Media YouTube channel. We'll keep bringing you the news every day the way you need to see it. Thanks for joining me.